So, a topic I've discussed a couple times on this channel is digital rights and how technically we buy digital media, whether it's a movie, whether it's a game, music, what have you. But guess what? We technically don't own it. As if, the physical media that we purchase, we actually own, we hold the rights to. Where if you buy digitally, right, you're licensing it through one of these bad boys, PlayStation or Xbox, not Ubisoft. Ubisoft's one of the driving forces that we're about to talk about in this new law that got passed by California. And it's about time that there's more transparency when it comes to purchasing items digitally where you're informed that hey, it's a license. And not a lot of people understand that. I know I have an older dad and my mom are older. Like they believe that if they purchase it, it's theirs, when in fact it's just a license. So let's get into this article. There's a couple talking points and some other things we're going to discuss as well. So let's get into it. And it's by Polygon. It's a very dependable source. So let's go. All right, I got to blow my big head up. So, California law, of all places, California. I'm surprised that this wasn't brought on a federal stage for these companies to get called out on. But a new California law means digital stores can't imply you're buying a game when you're merely licensing it. The law will go into effect next year. So we got about a couple more months until next year. So I'm not sure if it's going to be like a January timeframe when it gets put in or not. Anyways, let's keep on going. When you turn on your Xbox Series X, open the Microsoft Store, and buy Farming Simulator 22, you might think you own the game, but you'd be wrong. That's any digital game, guys. That's not just Farming Simulator 22. You actually paid for a license to play the game, not owning it. Companies can revoke the license at any time. It doesn't happen all too often, but it does happen, especially with older games. Ubisoft made headlines earlier this year when it delisted racing game The Crew in December, took its servers offline, then started to pull licensing to the game. Licensing versus actually owning a game becomes an issue once again when you consider where your games go when you die. You can't technically pass your licenses along to another person per company policy, which kind of sucks because I have a massive Xbox library and a massive Steam library. So it looks like it's not going anywhere in my will. But they're talking about The Crew. And that right there was a topic I discussed actually earlier this year. Ubisoft is stripping people licenses for The Crew. And that's all because they pulled the first Crew game offline, right? April 12th was when this came out. This article's from PC Gamer. But you also got to realize, in order for them to maintain a game online and to maintain the servers, it actually costs money. That is why Ubisoft's pulling it down. Now, I do think it is kind of shady that they're pulling licenses for people because what if, you have a server set up, player server, and they can play the game with their friends. And this is another thing that I believe in heavily, and that is game preservation. The hard part is getting around DMCA, DRM, stuff like that, and be able to preserve older games so that future generations can play it. When we are moving into this digital format like we are right now, where consoles are becoming digital and physical media is actually dying off. Why? Because companies don't want you to own anything. Ubisoft here already stated, and this is another article I covered back in January, they want you to be more comfortable not owning your games. Why? Because they want to run services such as Netflix or Hulu, where you pay a monthly subscription to play said games. And, it is pretty ridiculous when you think about it because you have PlayStation Plus, you have Microsoft Game Pass, and those games are much like, Netflix, where you pay a monthly subscription, you pay for it, and in my opinion, as long as you're playing one game a month on said subscription, it pays for itself because it's roughly $20, and most games nowadays is roughly $20. Anyways, back to the original article at hand before we get derailed too much. A new California bill, AB 2426, signed into law by Gavin Newsom. The only good thing he seems like he's done so far on Tuesday is attempting to bring transparency to the buyers and selling of the digital goods like movies, ebooks, and yes, video games. Like I said, this is something that should have been addressed years ago and should have been updated years ago where people can finally understand, okay, if I buy something digitally, I don't own it. But yet, DMCA, Digital Millennial Copyrights Law, which is highly, highly outdated, needs to be updated as well. I highly doubt that's happening anytime soon. California Assembly member Jackie Irwin introduced the bill in part by hearing about the Ubisoft's move with the crew. The law won't change the fact that we're all licensing games instead of actually owning them, but it will force companies that operate in California to be more transparent about it. Companies and storefronts that would have to comply include Microsoft with Microsoft Store, Valve with Steam, Sony with the PlayStation Store, Nintendo with the eShop, and publishers that own their own stores like Ubisoft Store. The thing of it is there's so many launchers, bro. That's the one thing I hate. Polygon has reached out to all previously listed companies but did not hear back by publication time. The law is expected to go into effect January 1st, 2025, which is a good thing. So we're roughly, 2 months away from having to comply with it. Preventing companies that operate digital storefronts from using words like purchase or buy unless the company is clear that it's selling a license, not unrestricted ownership interest in the digital goods. This notice would have to be distinct and separate from the terms and conditions of the purchase, according to the text. So basically, we have a bunch of law mumbo jumbo here, which I always hate because it's always so dry and it can be confusing with how words are hard. We're just going to leave it at that. The law doesn't apply to subscription-based services, free downloads like demos, or companies that offer permanent offline downloads for digital goods. Companies will be fined for breaking the rules. Knowing how California is set up and it's talking about a fine, I guarantee you the fine is not going to be anything ridiculous. It'd probably be like $100 per game or something dumb like that. By sending AB 2426 to Gavin Newsom, California is now the first state to recognize when digital media retailers use the word like buy and purchase to advertise digital media licenses. They're engaged in false advertising. 100% true. Because like I said, my parents who are older don't exactly understand that. Now, me who actually plays a lot of games, owns a bunch of digital movies and everything like that, I understand I'm licensing them from whatever company I purchase them from. University of Michigan professor Aaron said in a news release from Irwin, consumers already around the world deserve to understand what they are spending money on: digital movies, books, music, and games. Those are called purchases and can't disappear without notice. There's still important work to do in securing consumers' digital rights, but AB 2426 is a crucial step in the right direction. 100% agreed, because like I said, now the unspoken rule, which is everything's a license, is going to be in the open. Digital purchasing is already, as physical media becomes less easy to find, stores like Best Buy have stopped selling physical movies entirely, and it wouldn't be surprising to see more retailers to follow. Physical video games use a disc or a cartridge as a license, and that your object is yours, but a company could still take servers offline. For instance, ongoing access isn't guaranteed. That's another thing I really dislike. Whatever happened to the days, because you got, all these game discs and everything. I'm not even talking about the Switch because I don't even remember how many gigs are on a Switch cartridge. But I know dual layered Blu-ray disc can hold up to I think it's 125 gigs, right? There's no game out there that is more than 125 gigs. In my opinion, if, it should be like old school. If I take the disc and I put it in there, why isn't it reading it off the disc? Why is it forcing me to download everything to the console, right? And all it does is it checks the disc to make sure you have the rights to the game to play it later on. It doesn't make sense to me. Ownership of digital goods like movies and video games will continue to be an issue beyond companies Revoking licenses, it also becomes increasingly common to see games being delisted from sale or pulled offline entirely, which I believe a lot of the issues with that comes down to like licensing music. Surprisingly, that is one problem that a lot of games face is the licenses of music ends up expiring. So guess what they do? Instead of patching it out, they just delist the game altogether. Or sometimes the license for whatever intellectual property they're using for the game runs out. So they delist it altogether. It's it's a fine line that these guys tiptoe around when it comes to stuff like that. Like popular mobile game, Kim Kardashian Hollywood. In that example, players lost a decade's worth of digital purchases. Not only is it a consumer's protection issue, but it's a preservation problem too. Like I said, one thing that I highly believe and I hold near and dear to my heart is video game preservation because you look at old PlayStation discs that you keep them exposed to the air, they actually degrade and end up disintegrating. It's sad. Let's go full screen. I think that this is a good move by California. Surprisingly, like you don't hear me say that very often. I've been living out here for 14 years. Anyways, you guys, don't forget to mash that like button. Comment down below. How do you feel about this topic? Do you think it's a good topic? Do you think it's a bad topic? And subscribe. We're on our way to 10,000 subscribers, and I can't do this without you guys. You guys are awesome. Keep doing what you're doing, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.